Hi, if you're into concert photography and you struggle with lighting conditions, you've come to the right place. In this video, I'm going to cover everything from dark clubs to places where you have pink and blue lights at the very end of the video. So stay tuned, and here it comes. Okay, in the very first set of pictures I'm going to show you, the first is of drummer Marcus Jones. He's the drummer for Bobby Sparks II. So these were shot at Deep Ellum Art Company in downtown Dallas. It's a fairly, not really small, but fairly medium to size club, but it's very, very dark. And I'm going to show you what the first slide looks like, let you decide whether you like it or not, and then show you what I did to it. This is Marcus Jones, and as you can see, the picture is very dark. So what we did in the next photo, you'll see the settings for the original photograph, and then you'll see the finished product, in which I increased the exposure in Camera Raw by about 2 to 3 stops, and that's what delivers this photograph. Quite a bit of difference. The next photo is of Janis Ian, and this was shot probably about, I'd guess, the early 1980s, and it's done on film. So it was done on 400 ISO Ektachrome, and it's shot at Poor David's Pub, which was on Lower Greenville in Dallas. It was a very, very small club, probably I'd say less than 100 people. So you'll get a good idea of some of the lighting in that club and what can be handled simply with the 400 ISO film, a 60th of a second, and a 200 millimeter lens, f3.5. Of all the small club shots, probably the most fun was the one of Marcus Jones. I knew that I didn't want to push the ISO very, very hard, but it was very, very dark. So I made sure that the lens was set at 200 millimeter at f2.8 and the shutter speed at 250. And then what I did in Camera Raw is I boost the exposure by 2 stops to increase the brightness, and then I tinkered a little bit with the whites in the shadows, the highlights in the shadows, the whites, the blacks, until I got it to the season, to the taste in which I wanted. The camera still focused just fine, and you can see in his photograph, you can see the drum movement, but he's still in sharp. And even if you look at his T-shirt, you can still see the writing and read what's on his T-shirt. So the shot was a lot of fun to do, and a little bit difficult. I was pretty sure it was going to come out once I did it. So that was probably the most fun. The next series of 3 shots were done at Dallas Market Hall, and they were done in a warehouse that was pitch black with a set of trucking doors that were wide open, and the sun comes streaming right into it. The stage was set back probably 200, 250 feet and was lit up by some stage lighting. But what it produced is it produced a very deep, deep black. A separation between the front of the artist and the back and the side of the artist. So if you shot at them sideways, you got a really deep contrast, which is really pretty cool. But you had a mixture of natural lighting from the sun coming in through the truck doors, and you had mix that with your stage lighting, and you can see the results that I got from it. One of the keys to doing this was actually using my spot meter and making sure that I had all my settings for my shutter speed and my aperture correct. And I still shot this at 1600 ISO. Didn't go any further than that. And take a look and tell me what you think. Okay, let's face it. One of the most dreaded types of lighting is backlighting. A lot of people hate that because of the way that they meter and use their camera. They don't spot meter. They use it as stock metering, just like you'd be out photographing street photography or anything else. So the next few shots are of Aaron Watson, and one of them I learned, the very first one I'll show you, I learned the first time I shot him, because it kind of surprised me. I've never seen him before, didn't have any idea who the guy was, and but I had to photograph him, and he used a whole ton of backlighting that left him, lit up his audience, but left him in the front kind of very dark, and plus he wore a baseball cap on top of that. Then I got the chance to shoot him again, this time at Billy Bob's indoors, and I was already ready for the backlighting, but he had even more backlighting than before. Also, he had a mixture of not only of backlighting, but he had a lot of smoke kind of stuff that was going on in the back behind him. So it was fairly difficult. But the key to doing these shots was actually spot meter. Okay, make sure you have your spot meter and your focus right. So you want to be on his focus and spot meter off of his face, and then shoot from there and let everything else fall into place. You'll notice that the background with the backlighting is kind of washed out, but he's nice and sharp, and his skin tones are pretty good. I had to adjust a little bit of color temperature, but other than that, he's fine. But spot metering again is the key in this one, and you have to be careful, because if you get the outside light from him that's surrounding him, your exposure will go a little crazy. It'll go up. So you have to be careful. Next photograph is of Cody Canada in The Departed, and I was really wanting to see this show, and it was at the Sounds of Summer in Garland. It's a small outdoor city park festival, and you never know what you're going to get for lighting out there, because the stage faces kind of east-west, west-east, with the sun setting on the left side of the stage, and the right side of the stage is lit up by the lighting. But and what happened is, it was just right about sundown, and Cody Canada came on, and that affected the light. Then to mix that up with some light issues, he had this pink and blue, dreaded pink and blue, but he had some orange, some deep orange lights that went along with it. And some of the lights that were used during the show were directly behind his head. So when you're in the pit area, you had the light here in his head here, and you if you weren't careful, you'd pick up the light from the light source and catch a meter reading off that, and it would throw up your meter. So you had to be real careful with that. But again, spot metering, and I had to take and use the lens. I think I had the lens set at 200 at f2.8, and still ISO 1600, which is pretty standard for most things that I do, and it came out pretty good. but you got to be aware of the light behind them. You got to be black areas, the darkness, because if you're spot metering or if your metering is goes one side or the other of your subject, it will turn around and give you the wrong readings, and then you'll have to play with it some more. The next shot is one of my favorites. It's of Joey Kokura from the Justin Russell Band, and it was taken at the Toyota Music Factory's Texas Lottery Plaza stage. And one of the really cool things about that stage is on one of the sides, it's got a neon light that sits there. So I put Joey in front of that neon light. But also at the bottom of that neon light is a couple floodlights. They're bright white floodlights, and you have to watch for that and make sure that you're actually metering in the right place, not getting the lights, the harshness of lights, and not overexposing Joey or overexposing the neon light or the floods. So it makes it kind of a challenge. But take a look at this picture and you'll see what I'm talking about. It really, I think, looks pretty cool. The next shot is of Megan Lovell, and Megan Lovell is the steel guitar dobro player for Larkin Poe, one of the sisters. And Larkin Poe is pretty interesting because generally their stage is, the night I shot them was purple, a lot of purple light, and they had these great big dishes behind them that reflected light, and they rotated. So you had to be pretty careful that you weren't shooting right into one of those, or one of those didn't come down and clips you when you were getting ready to take the shot. So, and that was the biggest challenge. Be aware of what is on stage and what's going on for lights. Pay attention to lighting sequences. Pay attention to what actual kind of lights are out there. This is not a fancy shot at all. This is pretty standard. I don't even know if I was using spot metering for this one at all, but it's a pretty standard shot. All right, the weirdest place, well, almost the weirdest place, one of the weirdest places I've ever photographed in my life was in the public library in Hurst, Texas. There was a concert that was going on. It's supposed to be in a park, and it was 110 degrees, and it was outdoors, and the people that were putting on the show didn't want to play in 110 degrees in a park. So what they did is the city of Hurst decided, well, we got the public library, and we got a big area in the public library. Let's just hold everything in the library. Okay, libraries are quiet, so that's not supposed to happen. But anyway, they waited till the library quit and closed for the evening, and then they went into one of their big meeting rooms, and the meeting room probably held 200 people. It was pretty good size. It had a stage in it, and the concert went on. It was Buddy Whittington and Wanda King. So if you're looking for blues and stuff like that, awesome show. But the weirdest part about it, it's in a library with a low ceiling. It had a stage. It had one whole side of the stage had curtains open, the windows open, and it was lit up with the west evening sun. So there was a lot of bright, harsh sunlight coming through. So you had to take that into effect. Spot metering again was used. Pretty. Other than that, it was not a real hard shoot. It was just the lighting. You had to allow for the angles in which you were shooting so that you didn't blow out highlights and overexpose something that with the wrong kind of lighting. Now also they had some lighting that was in there. It was not like the lighting they were going to have on stage, so there wasn't as much. You didn't have a problem with fluorescence or incandescent bulbs or anything like that. The daylight actually kind of balanced everything out, and it worked pretty well. But really a really weird, strange place to take photographs. But don't get excited and concerned. Take the shots and then let you. I normally shoot on auto color balance, white balance, and I let it decide what it's going to do, and it came out perfectly fine. The corrections, if you need to, you can make them in Camera Raw or Photoshop or whatever you need if it's too harsh. But don't sweat it. Just take the shot and be happy and see what you get. One of the more challenging things to do is to shoot people of uh, darker skin colors, because normally they reflect a little bit differently than your white or your beige tan tones. Um, Sometimes they react with lights a little differently too. So you need to be careful and take into account and realize that too. So one of the coolest pictures I got to see Benoist King, who's a Texas blues guitarist, and when I shot this and got the pictures back, it was actually shot in a theater in Garland, Texas, for a benefit, and the lighting was typical kind of stage show kind of lighting, and he came out a real kind of plum purple, and he had, if I remember right, he had a bright lemon yellow hat that he was wearing, and that's kind of tough to get the color right and all that right with the skin tones, and especially under different color temperature lighting. So you have to kind of look and do what you see. So but I enjoyed shooting him. He was a challenge, but I just think the photograph that I did of him came out one of the cooler ones that I've ever done in my life. I'm really happy with it. It's not 100% realistic to the way it was, because I had to balance some things, but I think it's pretty good. Take a look at it. Well, and I promised that I was going to tell you how to take care of the dreaded pink and blues. And one of the shows I shot last year, I watched a lot of YouTube to find out what the people I'm photographing, for lack of a better term, look like and how they behave on stage. And I really kind of fell in love with the show of Stoney LaRue. I loved his show. I thought it was really cool. And when I got to the shooting, it was nothing like what his show was. It was nothing. So when I get there, his show was at the Louisville Western Days, and it had to be in late September. And I get a text message from his road crew saying, "Hey, are you on site? And are you at the venue?" And I said, text them back, and I said, "Yeah, I'm here." And I said I could use a little help, get a little better arrangement for access, because the city had made plans to give the pit area away to city dignitaries and friends of the city, vendors, merchants and things like that. So there wasn't any pit area. Well, the first part of the show, he comes out on stage and they play the first three songs with almost zero light. None. Okay? Little bit of pink, little bit of blue. And then, okay, so I can handle that. So I took the photographs, and you can see one of the photographs I took right here, but that's not how it came out. What they did is, after the third song, they fired up the lights and they turned him into a pink and blue lobster. Not happy. So when I got the pictures back and I looked at them off to the side, and I looked at his stuff when I was processing it, I go, oh, good grief. So I got playing with it inside of Camera Raw, and just because I was so frustrated, I took the color temperature from 3,000 Kelvin and I shoved it all the way up to 50,000 Kelvin. And whoa, all of a sudden, the pink and the blue went away. Okay, that's what I was trying to get rid of in the first place. So every time I see harsh pink and blue now, if the photograph is, if I've still got highlights and shadows and all that stuff, I just jam the color temperature to 50,000 Kelvin and then back it off or adjust it from there. Then I went in and adjusted the saturation in all the settings, so it actually comes out looking like this. Is it realistic? No, he's not pink and blue. He doesn't look like a lobster, but he does look like a human being, which is the goal of actually having the photograph. So his shirt was black, but with the pink light, it gives it a pink kind of tinge, and his skin has kind of a little bit of a blue tinge to it. So, but it's bearable, and so one of the tricks I'll tell you about if you're shooting under pink and blue light, when you get it into Photoshop and you go into Camera Raw or Lightroom and you're in Camera Raw, take that color temperature and look at it. And if it's sitting down about 2 to 3,000, crank it up to 50,000, just wham, and see what happens. Okay, and you'll be surprised. It'll go from this, from pink and blue lobster look to something that looks halfway human. Then you can adjust the tint a little bit, and you can adjust the shadows and the whites and the highlights. You can do all that stuff you want to do, but the first thing you got to do is get the pink and blue off of him, and that's the way to do it. So, hey, if you found this video interesting, worthwhile, you like it, anything like that, hey man, press that like button, stay up to date. We love it, you know. We'd love for you to subscribe. Our channel is growing. Man, we're still growing. We've got some more subscribers last month, and man, subscribe. It helps us out. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, confusions, whatever you got, just go ahead and put them in the comments. I answer the comments and all that. Sometimes it takes me a while to find them, but when I do find them, I send notes to everybody that I can, and we appreciate you. Love you guys. See you next week, and remember, keep fighting the light and win. See ya. Bye. This is Stony LaRue, and as you can see from the photograph, it looks fairly normal. It's a little tinged because of the lighting, but it's fairly normal. But if you look at the contact sheet, you can see the condition of all the photographs that I took at the time. Not real good, and there are the settings. Now look at the settings in Camera Raw, and you'll be able to see what I did to make the adjustments for the shot.